Wow. Aloha, everybody. It's an interesting topic to talk about watermen. Truly, I think the beginning of what watermen and waterwomen are, it starts at where you're from, and it starts with the people you learn from. I think like in some, well, maybe I should start with my name and stuff, or you did a good intro. So yeah, my name is Duane DeSoto, and I come from Makaha, a beautiful place on the west side. And I come from a beautiful family. My mom, Kathy McKernan, is here, and my grandpa, and then my uncles and my dad, the DeSotos. I got Manny, Bruce, Ronald, Auntie McGee, my family from out there. And I also got to bring into my grandfather's here, living here now with us, staying with my mom, and then I have a big, beautiful family, a beautiful wife with 7 children, and they are probably my biggest inspiration to move forward in life and be a positive person in the ocean. And it all starts with my mom. When I was really little, she made sure I could swim. And this goes back to what Mike was talking about. And, you know, we sometimes when we're so immersed in something, we forget about how the simple things are very important. So some of us have this great access to the ocean. And then we think everybody has the same thing, but in reality, not everybody has that great access to the ocean and to swimming. I mean, if you think about Hawaii in general, some people who travel here think everybody's a great ocean person. Everybody knows how to surf. Everybody's a great waterman or woman, and they're so lucky. They're so gifted. And the reality is that actually we don't all have that blessing even here, to be able to have that. And with having grown up at Makaha Beach, I realized that I was surrounded by this great watermen and women, people who had been having a connection to the ocean through their families and their ancestors for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Or for sure for thousands of years. And I was the recipient of such a great knowledge. So 4 years old, being able to surf my first contests, and having my dad and my uncles there to push and make me feel comfortable and confident out there. If you can imagine, back then the shortboards were kind of big, 7 feet tall, and so it was pretty much a longboard for all of us. And we didn't necessarily think of surfing the way the rest of the world thought about surfing. We were kind of in an isolated little bubble on the west side, where we knew who the people we surfed with. We were like, I don't remember having videos and magazines and access to any of that stuff. And so what we had though was we had Uncle Buff, we had Auntie Rail, we had my own uncles, my dad. We had people who were truly of the ocean. You know, watermen and waterwomen, if you will. And they spent their time fishing, diving, living in the ocean. I can tell you, my Uncle Bruce can go in the water and pull out a kala every time he goes in the ocean, and his glasses are like this thick. Okay, and he still can bring in food every time. And it amazes me sometimes I'm going to get called up to do a waterman talk and be a part of these great explanations of such an honored tradition. But then I'm always brought back to the simple fact that there's so many greats that don't get honored where I come from. We have the Teddy Bear Davises, we have the Warren Ho Ulis, the Earl Bungles, and even in my own family, that have these just natural and innate abilities in the ocean to live, survive, have fun, and pass it on to the children that are around us, but don't ever get any sort of accolade or mention in the process. And it's sort of these unsung heroes, these people who truly pass on our kupuna's knowledge, are just a fundamental reason why any of us even exist, to know and love the ocean. And so, none of us created the knowledge we have. All of us inherited it. People has shown us these pathways. And so, growing up at Makaha with that, I had the pleasure of, being able to surfing contests since I was 4, anti-rails contests at Haleiwa and at Makaha. And we were lucky back then to have one board if we had a board. One surfboard, you were doing pretty good. Otherwise, you were borrowing. I remember my parents would take me to places like Bellows and Haleiwa, and those were like big adventures. I remember pulling up to Waikiki with Uncle Bruce at a really young age, 4 and 5 years old, and it was like going out to another country, basically, especially when we never really left the west side a lot. And as I started to get through surfing and competition and learning, the number one thing my dad taught me was, if you're going to paddle out in a contest, you're out there to win, right? You're out there you have a reason to be there. And that included with all the basic stuff. I was super blessed to be able to go into professional surfing and travel to over 35 different countries in that process. And I didn't even understand where I was. At 16 years old, entering a contest at Haleiwa. It was the World Championships, and I was able to achieve getting 9th in the world at the time. And the guys came up and they're like, "Oh, we want to sponsor you, and we want to pay you money, and we want to you can go all over the world and stuff like this." And I was like, "Oh, is that what my parents were doing this whole time? Like taking me to contests over and over?" Is really, it didn't even dawn on me that there was like a job potential in all of this. I just knew I got to win my contests, and when that's done, I can just have fun in the ocean. I can love the ocean and tune out everything else around me. And that's really what it was, right? The ocean was my sanctuary, and my place to run away from what I thought was the chaos. And within that time, I met incredible people, not just from Makaha, but from around the world. And at 9 years old, I met this woman named Lynn Holmes. And Lynn was this Australian woman who had been visiting Makaha Beach with Uncle China and some friends. And at the time, she saw me on the beach and wanted to be my pen pal. So she's asking me for my address. She calls me out of the water. It's like 4 or 5 feet Makaha. And it's like, "Oh, come here. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Stranger danger." We didn't even have that word in the time, but it was definitely stranger danger time. And she's talking to me. "Oh, I'd love to write letters." And then I'm like, "Oh, my mom's down there. You go ahead and tell my mom what you want to do, and if she gives you my address, that's great. Let's do this." We can. So fast forward, 16 years old. We've been pen pals for 7 years now, and she sends me a round trip ticket to go to Sydney. And I was like, wow, what's this all about, And this kind of like sets the precedent of my entire career. Well, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going with the flow, and things fall into place. And so I go to surf a beach called Freshwater and Manly and DY. So to me, totally don't know what's going on. I'm surfing a contest called the Claude West. And then while there, amazingly, just having surfed what I know from surfing with all my peers here, kind of surprise the people there with the way we longboard compared to the way they longboard. But more importantly, I got to go to these beautiful events where I ended up meeting a woman named Isabel Latham. And Isabel happened to be the woman who tandemed with Duke Kahanamoku back in 1915. And so it's like, okay, wow, this is amazing. It's like part of history here. And I never met the Duke and would have loved to have met the Duke. And so she's telling all these great stories, and little do I know, I don't know what's going on. I just realized this is an amazing opportunity. And so through all of the surfing, traveling, all the stuff, and really wanting to perfect the skills of ocean, watching Uncle Bruce, Uncle Ronald steer canoes, watching my dad being a bigger man going straight up on a longboard, like amazingly on a 6-foot wave and yelling, or go home every time I take a wave. I got to just constantly be in these places and times, doing photo shoots and meeting all these interesting people around the world. I finally meet my beautiful wife of what are we, 19 years now, and I'm only 21 years old. And that became the most beautiful blessing in my life, because what she was, it was someone that I loved and wanted to be with, but she also saw that I had a passion for the ocean. She saw how much the ocean meant to me. And I think that gift of having someone who wanted to support who I was and what I was doing was key. Because a lot of people get torn away from their passions and torn away from their simple pleasures. Some of us need balances, or I think all of us need balances, and some of our balances come in forms that not everybody can accept. And the ocean for some people is not like a very prominent or professional atmosphere for some people. They have their own idea what it means. And so meeting her and having this love of my life say that, I want you should surf more. You don't surf enough. And telling me to do all this stuff was kind of amazing to have that support and push. And so I'm continuing to be a longboarder. I don't know if you guys know, but professional longboarding doesn't pay a lot. It's a pretty minor professionalism, really, but it was more like this great education. It was this going to places and learning and experiencing through action, Makaha kaike. And down the road, I win a world title due to the support of my beautiful wife continuing to push me. That was after doing my first world title was in '93, and I won in 2010. So you guys do the math. That was called persistence, if ever a persistence. And prior to that, the beauty of just kind of going with the flow, I realized how lucky I was. Where at one time I thought, wow, we're poor and we didn't have a lot coming up in Makaha. But then I realized, wow, we didn't have money, but we had lifestyle. We didn't have money, but we had ocean. We didn't have money, but we had family that were more strong and more solid than anything in the world. Unbreakable bonds. And I'm not even talking about just blood family. My family were protectors of Makaha. They were strong people. But there was also my extended family, where 9 years old I could paddle down to the beach on my bicycle and surf all day. And I was in the midst of family, whether it was blood related or not. And there was always food on the barbecue. Auntie Rel brought in kala and put it on the barbecue. Uncle Buff, Uncle Bruce, always one of the uncles always had fish on the grill or food for us. And I'm just always thinking, wow, how did I get to be blessed with this? How did I have this tremendously awesome life? And what is my responsibility? What am I supposed to do with this? playing. I thought I was playing. I wasn't really working. I was just surfing. That's not your normal job, right? And I would, for about 6 years, I talked to my wife about what was it going to be that would be special to do in the community, like the specialness that I was receiving all the time. And I was blessed to be able to figure out creating Nakamakai. And Nakamakai, meaning children of the ocean, was an inclusive title to share our mana'o with children in Hawaii and the world, but in a way that was outside of just Makaha. And it's this incredible journey of creating circles of uncles and aunties. We all know our uncles and aunties, and they're our best mentors in our life. And we were able to go location to location and share this great knowledge of ocean, because in actuality, the access to the ocean isn't there for everyone. It really doesn't exist for some families, and we are the privileged. And so Nakamakai happens. Somehow the stars align, come into winning a world title. Down the road, in 2015, it all comes together to me in my mind of how this was meant to be, and able to go to Australia again and represent Duke in a reenactment of the 100 years since Duke brought surfing to Australia. And then I finally realized who Claude West was, the person who had done his surf contest at 16 years old. I thought that was pretty lame of me not to know why it was called the Claude West at the time, and really not know too much more about Isabel Latham. But it was this amazing reality of how special Duke was, and how special ocean sports and watermen were being accepted by the rest of the world. The rest of the world really looks at what Waikiki and what our beach boys and our watermen and waterwomen bring as value to their lives, bring as a way to not only physically but mentally recharge and be happy and healthy. And so that was just amazing that somehow these processes all happen. And it all goes back to real simple things: who we are and where we're from, and the people that came before us. And so for me, I just really appreciate the opportunity to tell this story. And I really am excited to hear Mike's story and everyone else's story that's going to come up tonight, because these stories, it's our job to share them again. It's our job to go ahead and make sure that our babies have these stories as a part of their foundation. So thank you, everybody.